ABC Radio Darwin and the Northern Territory.
And right now I'd like you to meet AJ. He's a groundskeeper just outside of Katherine and he lives with cystic fibrosis. When he was 15, he was diagnosed, on top of the cystic fibrosis, with cystic fibrosis-related diabetes, so another chronic condition. In 2018, AJ received this little bit of medical equipment that allowed him to track his blood sugar levels in real time and better manage his condition. It's called a continuous glucose monitor, or CGM. However, once he was sold on this life-changing technology, he learned the ongoing cost of using it would be over $220 a month out of pocket, on top of the already high cost of managing his cystic fibrosis. Now, AJ wasn't eligible for the federal subsidy because he's over 21, and that's the age when the government stops subsidising for people with cystic fibrosis-related diabetes, even though it is a lifelong condition. Ahead of the federal budget next month, AJ is calling on the federal government to expand the subsidy to make managing multiple conditions just a little bit more affordable. And AJ's with us now. Hi, AJ.
Hey, Liz. How are you?
Tell us a bit more about this little bit of medical equipment and the difference that it can make in people's lives.
So it's just a sensor that's worn in the arm. So it lasts for about 2 weeks. It's held on with a little bit of adhesive. And it syncs up with an app on your phone that tracks what your sugar is doing in real time. It measures sort of the trends, and you can see how many times you go high, how many times you go low. It sends alerts to your phone to tell you when you are going to go low. So it just makes it a lot more consistent with being able to manage it effectively, comparative to finger pricking, which would generally be sort of a dot on a graph rather than seeing what the graph is doing in real time. So it makes a significant difference in just being able to see what's happening as a result of, physical exercise or the type of food that you're eating.
Did you ever get a chance to start using it before you turned 21, or you found out about it and were excited for this new bit of technology and then found out, you're too old to get the subsidy? How did that timeline go?
Yeah, I found out about it way later than when I was diagnosed. And I only found out about it in probably 2018 when my endocrinologist at my hospital clinic sort of brought it to my attention that this was something, because I'd voiced some challenges and frustrations with the finger pricking, not really being able to tell me that much information without having to finger prick myself just over and over and over and over again. So that made it significantly sort of easier for me, but I never received the subsidy because I was well over 21 at the time.
So you do use the technology, but you got to pay for it in full.
Yeah, it was a pretty defining moment, I guess, in my sort of history of managing my diabetes. Like, I remember crying, just being like, this is going to change everything, and then realising how much that was going to cost. But seeing as a thing to invest in my future and invest in my health, and making that call was sort of later just, for family, for birthdays and Christmases and that sort of thing, it'd just be like, look, as much as I'd love a present, like I need the money for the sensors. So whether it's buy me a sensor or chuck us a couple of bucks to put towards them, that would make a significant difference. But yeah, it does definitely add up.
So is that what happens for all your birthdays and Christmases now? People give you money to help manage your diabetes?
More or less. It's there's still people that want to just get me a gift regardless, which, I appreciate as well. But it definitely...
This is the thing you really need the help with. Yeah,
and, it's especially when, living up in the Territory, when, you're working outside and you're sweating so much, it doesn't take much for it to sort of start to delaminate that adhesive. And then if you, bump it on a door frame or getting out of the car or doing something just like you normally would, and it just delaminates that half inch, that's gone. You may as well throw that out. So then it's time for a new sensor. So you can do that day 2, you could do that day 13. So it's those sorts of little things as well that just really add up in terms of the cost.
AJ, how does cystic fibrosis impact your life, even before the diabetes has complicated things on top of that?
Well, I guess for people that don't know, cystic fibrosis is a chronic genetic condition that affects the exocrine system. So it makes normal secretions such as mucus to be quite sticky. It's commonly associated with lung and pancreatic function, but as I've come to sort of learn, it affects a whole lot more than that. But I'm actually in a pretty good condition, pretty good, I guess, fit bill of health, all things considered, comparative to a lot of other people. I was fortunate enough to be eligible for Trikafta, which is a genetic modulator drug that was approved for people with a certain type of genetic deficiency in their DNA chain. So all things considered, it's pretty good. I do have to take a lot of pills. I have to do sort of, daily physical exercise and physiotherapy to sort of help strengthen my lungs. And then there's the inevitable, hospital admissions that I have to go in for sort of antibiotics if and when I do get sick. So it's a lot, but it could be worse, and it has been worse at different parts of my life. And I mean, I'm pretty fortunate to be in the position that I am. But yeah, the stuff around the diabetes is sort of it's a hill that I'm always going to be climbing, I think.
What did you think when you learned about this piece of technology? You said it was a turning point. You broke down in tears that it was going to make such a difference. And then to learn that there's this sort of arbitrary cut-off age, that even though you have to manage this for your whole life, that the government only subsidises it up to 21. How did you feel learning that?
I mean, I was pretty frustrated and angry, to be honest. I think, what we have in this country in terms of access to healthcare is by far one of the best in the world. But I feel like this is just an oversight, like someone hasn't ticked a box in submitting, the right subsidies and approvals for people to get access to it. And if you're in an upper socioeconomic sort of position to not really have to worry about that, then that's great. But for the people that are sort of lower to middle, $100 is for a fortnight is a considerable expense in terms, as well as sort of having everything else that we've got to pay for, and also having the cost of cystic fibrosis. And it becomes a question of as to whether or not you can really you're making a choice as to how much healthcare you really are able to receive, because it's what are you going to have to sacrifice as a result to get there. So it was quite frustrating, and it's why I feel so strongly about it and why I want to get involved with CF Together in terms of creating a bit of awareness for this sort of issue and making sure that, people are, if that's something that someone with CF-related diabetes and it does affect them, then, we rally behind it to sort of try and get some change happening so that, people don't get left behind.
I'm going to tell you something a little sneaky behind-the-scenes thing, AJ. AJ Dwyer is who you're hearing from. He lives in Katherine. He's a groundskeeper. He works outside in the Territory in our hot conditions, living with diabetes and, the diabetes that comes as a complication of his cystic fibrosis. It's a lot to deal with. He and others, as part of the Cystic Fibrosis Together charity movement, are pushing for the federal government to subsidise this little glucose monitor that just is a game changer. They only subsidise it up to the age of 21, and it does seem a bit arbitrary. I don't know if you heard my phone ringing in the background there, AJ, that I hadn't put on silent in the studio. It was actually the federal member for Solomon, Luke Gosling. I don't know why he was calling me, but hopefully he's listening this afternoon, because it seems like it's the kind of story that our federal politicians need to hear to understand that this is an issue that affects probably, not a huge number of people around Australia, but those that it does are affected deeply by it. Do you feel like this campaign to get attention has started to get any traction, or have you got plans to put on your winter coats and head down to Canberra to make some noise about this? How are you planning to spread the word, AJ?
I'm just keen to get involved in any way that I can. I'm very, fortunate to be guided a lot by the amazing team at CF Together in terms of what I can do to sort of be able to help. It does make it a bit harder to do that living where I live and travelling and doing all that sort of thing. But any way that I can sort of help, I'm more than willing to. I'm hoping that there has been, some positive feedback as a result of my efforts and the efforts of other people that are sort of really striving to bring a bit of awareness and attention to this. At the coalface, though, I don't really have as much to do with, what comes back as a result of making that noise. But I think it's one of those things. It's a work in progress where I'm always looking to do a little bit more and do anything that I can do to sort of help people. So, if I'm in a position to be able to talk about it, then I'm willing and able to do that.
You're wanting to start a family as well. These multiple chronic conditions affect that, don't they? That means that you're going to have to travel up to Darwin for IVF. Is that the plan? This makes everything even more complicated and expensive for you.
Yeah, I think that's one of those things that you just have to make as a decision as to when and, what is the right time to be able to do that. I think I'm still in good spirits around what that's going to look like. But, it's a reality, especially with the cost of fuel and everything else at the moment going up. You do have to consider these things, and especially with you got $2,650 plus in census every year, it all does add up.
Well, AJ, it's really great to meet you today and to hear about the challenges, but also give you the chance to speak about those in the hope that maybe the politicians listening ahead of the federal budget can do something to make a difference for you. It sounds like a really rough hand that you've been dealt, mate, but you speak about it so optimistically and positively.
Yeah, I think attitude's a big part of it, and it's been amazing, honestly, having the people at CF Together behind me to really help me in every way that they can. And if anyone is interested in sort of getting involved, it's cftogether.org.au. The team there are absolutely amazing in helping people with CF, even in the smallest ways possible. So whether it's writing to the federal health minister or your local minister, or jumping on cftogether.org.au, they take donations, they take anything that they can sort of get in terms of being able to sort of put people in the right place.
Well, good luck with the campaign. And as I said, if you heard my phone ringing, because I didn't put it on silent, it was the federal member for Solomon Luke Gosling. I don't know why he was calling. Maybe he didn't realise I was on air, or he wouldn't have been ringing my phone at this time of day. So maybe he wasn't listening in, but I'll make sure that he has heard this story for you, AJ, and we'll stay in touch, because how rough is that your family and friends are having to give you money more often than presents to just make sure you can get the health care that you need. Really great to talk to you. We'll catch up another time.
Great. Thanks, Liz.
AJ Dwyer in Catherine there. He has cystic fibrosis. On top of that, he has got diabetes as a result of the CF, and just would like, in the federal budget coming up in May, the government to continue the subsidy that they offer for sufferers under the age of 21 for this continuous glucose monitor that just makes all of the difference for managing the diabetes. They don't subsidise it, and it ends up being a couple of $100 a month out of pocket. As AJ says, if you are wealthy and you can afford a few $100s, then no worries, totally fine. But if you can't, you're making decisions about the level of healthcare that you're able to access. It's just gone 2:30 on ABC Radio. 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 On ABC Radio.